Hey, Asaf. Hello to all our friends out there. Welcome to the Great Transition where we look
Yes.
at the world. Hey, how are you?
Welcome to the spaceship, everybody. Hello. Hello,
We are
world.
looking at the world through the lens of the wisdom of Kabbalah. We are looking every day. We wake up, especially yesterday, we feel like crap. And we look at the news and things seem to be deteriorating all around, although we don't have to wear our masks so much anymore.
Hmm.
But these feelings of emptiness keep growing inside. We keep looking around the world and we keep seeing more and more problems. And at the same time, we discovered this ancient wisdom which lifts the veil on what's going on in life, gives us a blueprint for how did we get here, even from before the Big Bang. It starts to describe, it even describes the blueprint of creation from before the Big Bang through creation all the way to here. And where is this all beyond time and space? What's really going on? There is, and it's incredible to be on that journey because everything, while we live in this world and we're perceiving everything for sure with our senses, with our eyes, and we're seeing how things are, at the same time, we start developing another perception, which is very paradoxical, which seems
Yes.
very opposite to what's going on with the eyes. And thus, we have this very special method, the wisdom of Kabbalah.
Not a
And let's go.
religion, not a belief system, not a tradition, uh, a wisdom that can actually be called a science, a method for expanding human perception, human awareness. Yeah, I like opening up with that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, let's look at it very, very practically, because that's another part of this, where no one's required to believe anything or have any hocus pocus about anything. We just want to test everything and try and understand where our good future lies. How is it possible that this planet filled with egoists, of people who can't get along even within the same family, how is it possible that this world can come to peace? How is it possible with enough money and billions and trillions and enough food, half of the food goes to waste, and enough land, with all the technology and everything we have,
Yeah.
that we still suffer constantly and endlessly? Is it possible we can come to a good life? So let's see what nature's doing. Let's see what we're doing, and let's see how we can shed some light on the situation. So yesterday, like a normal person, like the normal
Maybe
person that I
maybe
am,
Seth, let's just
yeah,
say also hello to everyone who's watching from anywhere you are in the world. And I see some are already connecting from Toronto, Canada, and Ohio, and Minnesota, and Spain, and Italy, I think.
nice.
Yeah, and yeah, there we go. Yeah, anyone who's just tuning in right now, tell us where you're watching from. If you can, that'll be great. Hey, Laura. Hey, Wendy. Hey, Simone. Here before the rest. Ruby, Deborah. There we go. See, now they're coming in.
Where are
Okay.
you seeing all this?
I'm looking at the Kabbalah info chat here, and I'm also looking at the TGT chat. And I'm
Okay.
also,
Oh, somebody's here from Rothschild. I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
that's it's an
It's
interesting
probably a
place.
reference to some kind of
Theodora from
Illuminati.
Bulgaria is here. Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. so Um, so let's start on the ground and then we'll slowly rise up to the higher levels. So, like the normal person that I am, I
Sure.
went
Normal.
to normal work, to feed my normal family with normal food, and I saw something interesting there yesterday. There was a baby deer who was left there by his mom, presumably.
Mm.
Super cute. Chris, I sent you a
Picture?
picture of
You
this
got a
earlier.
picture for
If you
us?
can,
Yeah, there we
yeah,
go.
Chris, if you can put it up. Okay, this. Aw.
Oh, oh.
So this is right outside my office. Little baby deer. His mom is, or her mom, or their mom, whatever the baby deer's pronouns are, left it there, and
Okay.
and the the emotional outpouring that happened at the office yesterday
Um,
Somebody called a goat farm and got goat milk and got a bottle to feed it goat milk from a bottle, and another person this, and they called the animal control to move it from one place into the shade, and this over a baby
wow.
deer that was left by his mom by our office. I started to think that maybe we should start raising money for the baby deer, and maybe we should go discovering all of the baby deer that are left by their moms. And why stop with baby deer? Because there's also probably a lot of a GoFundMe account. Yeah, there's probably a lot of baby birds that are
Mm,
also abandoned. Not to mention uh, baby zebras and baby giraffes
sure.
and any
Yeah.
other animals, cute, adorable little animals that are abandoned,
Hmm.
probably because they're weak or aren't going to survive. And instead of these animal parents having some compassion on their weakest children
Mm,
and maybe sick children, they leave them to die. Um, so, what do we as humans do? We come in and try and fix it. I mean, that's what happened yesterday. I was
right.
amazed at the outpouring and the care and how everybody was so really moved by an accident that happened outside of our office. Um, I wonder what would happen if we saw more animals abandoned, how it might change our mood on a regular
Mm,
basis, how much everybody seems so caring. Um, but it's not just that nature leaves animals to die. There's a million children, humans, that are dying of
mm.
starvation this year. There's also about a
1 million.
billion,
Mm,
a million children, about 100 million people that are dying of starvation every year. I
right.
know you guys had your whole
So,
little Middle Eastern, your scheduled Middle Eastern conflict where
yeah.
a couple hundred people, but you got a million kids dying every year from
Wow.
starvation. There's plenty of food, but that's what nature, how she planned it. There's also a billion people that are malnourished every year that are dealing with almost no food.
Mm,
Okay, and about 100 million that are living in like almost starvation situation. So nature also made smallpox and polio and malaria, um,
all
which
that
really
jazz. All that
what?
jazz. All that jazz. All that great
Yeah,
stuff.
and us as humans on our part, we're always trying to fix all of the
Mm,
problems that nature keeps making. Nature keeps starving little innocent children, and we keep trying to feed them. Or maybe we're not doing a great job at it, but we're trying. With all of our
mm-hmm.
egos and all of our stupidity and all of our selfishness, there's still there's still efforts to feed them.
So nature's evil. We're good. That's
You said
that's
that. I'm
that's
just pointing
basically
out
what
her
you're saying.
behavior. You can label it. Um, but yeah, she does a pretty thorough job at killing and at causing diseases and even causing parents to abandon their children and or animals to abandon their children, right? Even without human intervention there. And we, for our part as humans, um, we try and fix it, kind of.
Hmm. Well,
Um,
I have to, I have um, to say, to give another perspective. Nature also creates life and sustains life, and you know, um,
so you're giving her a free pass. What do you
I'm
mean I starved children? I also gave them life.
yeah. No,
I better you
I'm.
didn't give them life if you're just going to let them be born and then die.
Well, that's a great philosophical question for you know, to for debating, but you can't ignore that nature shows you both sides. We're looking at both sides. We're looking at magnificent system, a program of life that nourishes and nurtures and creates this, you know, just the stuff that's happening in a mother's womb to create a baby. That's incredible. That's beyond incredible. We still have, with all our great science and medicine, we still don't know exactly how this thing happens, this miracle of life. And then on the other hand, we see situations where Mother Nature leaves the deer to die, and there's even cases. I saw this nature documentary a while ago, a long time ago actually, with Ali, and it was very hard for her to watch, especially. I think it was just like shortly after we had our second child or something like that. Anyway, there's this bird, can't remember the name or the kind of it, not a bird expert, but there's a kind of a bird that she gives birth to two little birdies, and one eats the other. That's and they show it, and it really is how they build it with the exposition and the story, the narrative of around this bird, and then the nature film. It's gut wrenching. So nature does
It's
this
it's
and it
it's
does
gut
that.
wrenching
Is all I'm saying.
with it's gut wrenching with the dramatic music in the background
Mm-hmm.
and the exposition and the buildup.
Right.
But if you look at the last 100,000 years of birds eating each other, or chimpanzees, are cutie chimpanzees. Everybody do a YouTube search for chimpanzees eating. They eat other monkeys alive. A chimp goes, or one of
Wow.
these kind of monkeys, they go, they grab one of the other little monkeys, and they just start eating its face or
Oh
ripping its
boy.
arm off and eating it. These are the cute chimps. So every single day that a monkey is eating, he's he's eating, he's cannibalizing another little monkey. So if you were to just take one and make a whole story around it, right? Like if you made a story with
Right.
music and lighting and
Yeah.
camera angles, you could really make it dramatic. But then
Mm-hmm.
if you zoom out and see that this is how monkeys are sustaining themselves, and it's happening every single day and has for hundreds of thousands of years,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's our
Yeah.
story that's the problem, or the story we put on top of it.
Yeah.
But the what we see is nature does a good job of
Yeah. But
killing
again,
stuff.
both sides. It does a miraculous job of giving life, and it does a miraculous life work of killing life. It does both things.
The Hindus have this kind of three god system.
Mm.
I used to do yoga a lot. It was called Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, or Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, or something like that. It's like one god is the creating god, one god is the sustaining god,
Mm.
and one god is the destroying god. Shiva, by the way, it's when a person dies in the Jewish religion, there's the Shiva also. Shiva's, I don't know
Shiva.
if there's any connect. I don't know if there's any Shiva.
I know
Same
it's a different
in
word. It's a
English. It's the
different word.
same spelling. Okay,
I
fine.
think the Indian
Anyway,
is Shiva, and the Hebrew is Shiva,
okay,
which
fine.
means
So
seven, which means seven basically, because
so
it's
but
seven
there are these
days.
different
It's a
aspects
7 days ritual. Yeah.
of the god there. That one portion of the god is like this creating force.
Mm-hmm.
One portion is the killing force, and
Right.
it's
Right.
considered like that. In fact, they have a lot of gods over there, kind of for
Yeah. Quite a few, inclu-
each aspect.
including the new one,
Which one is that?
the Corona god. I heard. So I heard. There's a new god in town in India.
Tell me about it.
I heard that first of all, India is having it really bad right now with COVID. I think it's the worst in the world right now. People are dying in the tens of thousands a day,
Oh my god.
and they are again nature killing people and other creatures. They are to the point that it's such a volume. They're burning bodies like left and right before they even get to like ventilators or oxygen or whatever. It's bad. It's really really bad right now in India, and there you go. And Indians are going to worship the Corona goddess of some sort. Let's read this headline. She's an angry goddess. India's coronavirus deities, disease curing shrines offer hope to desperate devotees. A long entrenched tradition of turning to faith in calamitous times has seen Indians flock to shrines and temples as the pandemic rages on. The country's chronically underfunded health system is part of the reason, though such practices have a long history and not everyone believes. Yeah, so
Mm.
that's that's something that's
That's a
happening now.
long tradition, actually, of humans to turn to the sky when you need rain, or when you need to be fertile, you do some kind of thing. And
Yeah.
if there's something very natural about it, actually, if you remove all of the kind of human trappings around it, you're dependent on the forces of nature, and you kind of realize it. And without nature, now on the other hand, um, here in the states, we manhandled that thing, man. We took that virus, we tied her up, we threw her down, beat her up, got our vaccines, got those masks off. We're back in business over here. We didn't turn to
Oh
any
yeah.
god
Oh yeah,
over
same
here. We
here.
used our money and our powers, our
Right.
forces, and
Right.
we eliminated it. But I understand in India they turned to it's a different approach. We have these different kind of approaches. I think one is that we're gonna forget about nature. We're gonna we're gonna deal with this, and the other one is
Right.
this kind of completely just throwing up our hands and turning to nature. Um, Regardless, nature's doing a she's doing a job on humanity, huh?
Yeah, for sure. There's no way around. Here's what's beautiful about nature's work.
Please tell me something
There's
beautiful.
beautiful depending on how you look at it. But I'm gonna say it's beautiful, so we'll to prime you to look at it in a beautiful way.
Okay.
Nature causes us to it doesn't let us escape from trying to figure out what's going on. This contradiction between good and evil, good and bad, positive things we see in reality, negative things we see in reality. This constant contradiction forces us to evolve consciously. This is what evolves human consciousness. This living between opposites, this existence in between the plus and minus, this constant contradictory reality that we feel. Man has tried for, from the dawn of time, from or at least from the moment we became more self-aware and conscious of where we are trying to figure out what is the story. What are all where do all religions come from? You see, Corona got us. Just think about that. Think humanity a couple thousand years ago. Think about how all of this has evolved. Man started, man felt it's his dependency on the forces of nature. We're seeing that on the one hand, rain comes and it brings crops, and on the other hand, there's horrible storms that we have to hide, so they don't kill us, right? So is nature good or bad? And as long as nature was clearly superior to us, we were more inclined to solve this problem, this riddle, this contradictory existence that we live in. We were more inclined to solve it in religious fashions, by ways of believing, because we always felt like nature is superior to us. But when we started becoming more modern, more scientifically inclined, more feeling like we are less and less dependent on nature. We don't have to live in a cave. We can live in our own building with our air conditioning and get our food from the supermarket. We don't depend on the rain so much. We have artificial irrigation, whatever it is, we became more and more seemingly independent of the forces of nature. And that made us change our story. And so um, that's what's beautiful. That's where I started, right? Is that nature doesn't let us escape figuring this out. This is how I would see it from a Kabbalistic perspective. Nature will continue even as modern and scientifically evolved and capable of harnessing the forces of nature to our own good as we think we are. Nature is still stronger, and nature is gradually developing our consciousness to come to terms, to come to grips, to solve that riddle of why do we feel that we're in a contradictory existence. Is nature good or bad? Is it supposed to, does it, is it good to us or bad to us? And are we supposed to be something towards it as well? Are we supposed to relate to it in a certain way?
If
Are we
you
supposed to save the deer?
if
Are,
you
yeah,
broke your leg and lost your job, you'd think nature was bad. But then if you went around the corner and someone gave you $10 million, you'd think nature was good. And then if you
right.
fell into a hole and lost the $10 million, you'd
Then
think nature was
nature's bad.
bad. But then if
Yeah,
you crawled out of the hole and somebody offered you another 10 million, you'd think nature was good. So
exactly.
I don't think nature's changing in that situation. I think it's all about our perspective.
Right. But
It depends on how nice
mm,
everyone is to me and how much stuff they give me, and then I'll tell you how good nature is or not.
right. Um, okay, so to continue on that, human perception being the primary, the foundation, rather than what nature's doing. So if nature is constant, then you have to also accept that all the good stuff that you see and all the bad stuff that you see are coming from the same intention. From, maybe intention is a more difficult word now, but it's
There's something
coming
weird
from the
here.
same
Hold on, there's
programming.
something weird about that. Besides
Okay.
the
Okay.
yellow filter on my lighting, which is also weird, but there's something weird about what you just said, and that is
It actually, it's kind of warm and nice. I look
it is
too
warm. Yeah.
cold now. My
Okay.
mind
We
looks
just
too
our
cold. Yeah.
tones aren't
Yeah.
similar.
Not in
Um,
sync. Yeah.
we have this kind of innate thing that we kind of feel that nature's supposed to be good, or that people are supposed, like, we're always surprised when people do something wrong,
Okay.
or like, how could he do that? You're like, because he's has inner urges. That's how, exactly how, and that's how his ancestors all were for the last million years. That's why he did that. It's not a shouldn't be a surprise to you. We always are surprised that people behave the way they do. We're always surprised when things aren't good, but the evidence kind of points to the opposite. We should be shocked when something good happens. We should be kind of used to the fact that our lives are filled with very difficult, nature makes it really hard for us. Although there's plenty of money, there's plenty of food, there's plenty of land, there's plenty of clean water. There can be plenty of, I mean, maybe, hopefully, there's plenty of clean water. I don't know. It depends on how fast we keep polluting it, but
Mm-hmm.
nature provides plenty of everything, but just kind of left to run on autopilot with us, we end up having we keep like crashing the car
Yeah.
and having a bad experience, and we would have to honestly say nature's not so kind to us.
But you see, this is you're uh indirectly talking about the same question here. You're actually asking, what is the role of the human in the natural system? That's the one thing that we need to be trying to figure out. That's what I'm saying. Nature is pushing us to figure out. Because are we supposed to kill to help the deer that you're
Let them
call,
die.
or are we supposed to let them die? There's
No, don't let them die. He's so cute,
no,
though.
no,
I
no, no,
asked my
no.
kids if I should bring
I'm
it home.
okay. I'm not asking this from a philosophical, moral philosophy standpoint. I had learned enough of my share of philosophy for 2 years, many years ago, and it just becomes this cyclical kind of discussion about trying to figure out morality among philosophers. Not the branch I liked. Anyway, I'm not talking about the philosophical question. Is it a moral or immoral thing to do? I'm asking, what will be the most appropriate fulfillment of the human function in the natural system. Is there uh, um, a more or less correct attitude and behavior on our part when we see that uh, deer that nature left to die, basically, right?
Okay, so
There,
there's two approaches here. There's the approach in the West, kind of the U.S., which is like we're actually it's not just the West, it's also the East. It's also actually I don't know if you could say West and East, because look at China also, very
right,
similar to like the US. It's like we are going to, lock this thing down. We're going to control this. We're going to control everything about how you live, what you say, where you go. We control it. Then on the other side of the spectrum is like India, for example, or just these kind of faith-based outlooks on life,
mm-hmm,
which is and probably even interesting because you have India, and then you also have like very religious people over here in America too, who just believe that Jesus, if you just pray to Jesus, um, he's going to fix everything.
right,
And in India,
yeah,
they're praying to a God that he's going to fix everything. So that's West and East. And then on the other hand, you also have this other thing of West and East. You have like the United States saying we're gonna beat this virus. We're gonna fight this virus. We're gonna
right.
spend our way out of this crisis. We're gonna, beat changes in the climate.
Yeah, it's like,
And
do we fight our way against the crises that nature puts before us, or do we pray our way out of nature's crises? That's kind of like, you know, in
right,
broad
so there's these two
strokes.
views,
If
and
you
you
think
can't
about
even
the
say that
Corona
one's
God,
Eastern or
yeah,
one's Western.
you
But
can't,
you
you
have
can no
two.
longer say that. It's already so intertwined. Like, uh, to give another example, right? If you think about medicine, and like, so you could say in the past, right? If you compare like Eastern medicine and Western medicine, like, which is newer, right? So the approach in Western medicine is basically, oh, you have a tumor, we need to get in, get it out, fix
Get
it,
it
right? And the
right.
approach in I'm just, expressively exaggerating a little bit, but the approach, right? The approach is, I'm the hero. Look at also at Hollywood movies, Western, kind of culture and all that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
the hero that will save every day. Moviegoers, go to just to celebrate these celebrities who act out that they are superheroes that are saving the world. It's like, it's so deeply rooted in the culture, this idea in Western culture that we are the fixers, we are the saviors, right? So when you see the deer, you have to save the deer. Never mind that while you're doing that, your country is
Okay, let's hold on. So
but
let's
wait.
talk about a Western country that wants to fix things.
Okay,
You,
so
you weren't you weren't finished?
I was trying to compare it
Okay, tell me.
medicine
Tell me.
as an example, but I lost my track completely. So
Oh, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
So no, I forgot where I started from. The
Oh,
Western medicine. Let's get in, get the problem out. We are the heroes, basically. That's the approach. Eastern medicine, uh, again, and I'm very overgeneralizing here, but in general, the thinking is, let's help the body. The body knows what to do. The body is a holistic system that can revive itself and recover itself, rejuvenate what needs to be done, and fix and balance itself. We just need to help it, nudge it, support it, encourage it, and it will do its thing. And so these medical applications, they also come from a different view on this question. Are we supposed to meddle with nature and fix what nature does? Or are we supposed to take a more kind of a different kind of role, more of a participatory role where we just become aware of what nature needs to do, where we let nature do what it needs to do. There was this. Okay, dude, a lot of tangents here are coming to my head. So tell me where you want to go. There, tell me where you want to go.
Um, you're saying let nature do what it wants to do. So let me just add another spinning plate and try and figure out here. We want to look through what's going on. Okay, we're putting a lot of things on the table.
Mm-hmm.
We want to look through it with these Kabbalistic lenses. With these lenses, we want to rise above what's happening day to day, but use these things
Right.
when I see the world through my own perspective, I base everything on how I feel. And if I'm really good, then maybe I know, for example, well, I don't feel good when I'm exercising, but I have my goal, so I can
Mm.
postpone my feeling good until later. So I'm suffering now in the gym because I'm going to feel good later. But all of my actions in life are based on me feeling good. I'm speaking for each person, right? There's no other way we can decide to do something if we don't see some benefit in it. Otherwise, we can't move.
Mm-hmm.
There's another way to perceive life that we're talking about here, which has to do something. We didn't get into spirituality too much yet, but has to do with some other perspective. But we
Right.
need to look at where we are here first, understand what's
Yeah.
going on. So, with that being said, let me just add another piece to the puzzle here, okay? Last year, there was a great crop in Australia. A lot of things grew, great bounty.
Okay.
So, you know what happens after a great bumper crop in Australia in 2020?
What? Tell me.
A cannibalistic mice plague in 2021. So, there is now a plague of cannibal mice that is taking over parts of Australia, um, in schools, in homes, in hospitals, in Wales, in Queensland. Thank you, Chris. Cannibal mice threaten Sydney homes. Yeah. So
Sorry.
the point is that we talked about this. One group is praying to
Mm-hmm.
nature to fix, like in India, right? They now they have their corona god, and the other group, like in the West, China or the U.S., like we're gonna defeat it.
Right.
How many things can you defeat, and how fast can you do? What I'm trying to do is push this conversation to a breaking point, because how many things, like, we think we got the virus under control. Let's see how that goes. We'll see if nature has anything else in store around the virus. But now you get, the starvation and the mouse plague in Australia, and oh God, Chris, what was the one you talked about? The even if you say it's man-made, where are men getting these desires from? Where is men getting their impetus to move from? Chris, what was the Sri Lanka? Some horrible,
Yeah, the acid spill. Yeah, the whole
yeah,
bottom floor of the ocean will be dead, basically, they're saying. Yeah.
Mm.
some container ship filled with chemicals and plastics and stuff is on
Mm.
fire in Sri Lanka and is just poisoning the sea there. So
Right.
how many like your little country over there, like how many fronts can you fight a war on until you're like, we need a different perspective on what's going on here? Because between the
Mm-hmm.
acid spill and the cannibal mice and the virus and the impending financial disaster and the starvation and the depression and everything
Right.
else, like how many more wars can we fight against nature?
Yeah. So we need to understand who are we fighting with? This is the issue. Kabbalistically, this is what's happening. You could say we're in a war, but we're not in a war against nature. That's a misconception. That's a misunderstanding. We need to look at a different way uh, into the contradiction that we see in nature, because from the perspective of Kabbalah, it's not like we need to pray to pray to some higher power that everything will be okay. And on the other hand, it's not like we shouldn't do something to better our situation. Sure, if there's a virus, and doesn't matter where it comes from right now, and just, technically, if there is a disease that we can somehow protect ourselves from, we should do it. We should do it. But at the same time, and this is uh, what is not present in any of these uh, belief systems, religions, or just a purely scientific view on reality and nature. We need to do two things at the same time. We need to try to balance our physical existence, and that means protect ourselves from natural disasters, try to keep our hygiene so we don't get infected with all kinds of things, sure. But at the same time, we need to find the reason for all of those evolutionary problems that nature is sending us. See, the problem with the purely let's call it secular Western scientific view, the problem with it is, the good thing about it is that man decided that he needs to be independent, and that we can do things if we put our minds to it, and we can better our situation, and we need that attitude to take control of our evolution. That needs to happen.
So we don't remain as just a monkey anymore.
Exactly. So we're not just ants, or some sort of beings that are just
run by instinct completely.
run completely by instinct, or by some blind kind of faith or blind belief, where we don't actually exercise our capacities for independence and consciousness. So that is a step in the right direction. But what it's lacking, the problem with that approach, is that we become we might become less sensitive to where nature is taking us. What I'm saying right now, by the way, is not something that I'm coming up with. This is the article, the Kabbalistic article to go to for this whole issue of how to look at the contradictions that we see in nature, is the Peace article from Bala Sulam, where he explains this in a bit more of a archaic language that we need to get used to, but he explains this in detail beautifully.
Let's speak about it for a second. So we're not talking about the article Peace in the World. We're talking about the article specifically called The Peace.
Right. So,
and the article has a certain style of writing, and it's not super simple. So why don't we try and open it up a little bit? So if anyone wants to go look at it later, they already are primed for it. You want to just talk about the section a little bit?
I would actually recommend, if people are new to these writings, I would recommend them to get your book instead as a first.
Oh, there we go.
And
good idea.
at least together with the articles, to accompany the articles, because you do need to get used to that style of writing and interpreting the texts correctly. But anyway, maybe we can throw some links into the comment section afterwards.
Generally explain what these different perspectives he brings up in the article, and then where
I'll continue from the secular scientific Western, whatever you want to call it, kind of approach basically says, look, there's nature, it has its laws, it has its evolutionary program, but we are considering, because we don't see more than that, we can consider everything as completely random. There's no purpose. Nature is senseless, mindless, purposeless, planless kind of thing, and we exist in it. The problem with that approach is that, first of all, it goes against man's gut level need for purpose. even if any person, take the person who is the most atheist in the world. At the end of the day, if you're a human being, you need to somehow find some purpose in life. We are creatures that are motivated by looking for meaning and purpose. That's also why our brain is wired for narratives, and we have to like find the purpose of every story. In short, we're going against our own gut level needs with thinking that nature is just this completely blank, planless, purposeless, senseless, mindless system of laws, and that's it. The other side of the equation is to say, oh, there's God behind everything that's happening, and so if there's a good thing that's happening to us and a bad thing that's happening to us, then there must be some good God and some bad God, right? There has to be some forces, good and evil, that are fighting, and they control the situation. So then you let go, you remove your participation from the story. And that's problem number one. You can go further with it and assign a different God to different things.
So you have God, for example, and then you have Satan, who's causing the God is making all the good stuff, and Satan's making the bad stuff. That's one
very.
And then you have another level that Govinda is taking care of this part of my life, and Saraswati is taking care of this part of my life, and for each different aspect of my life, I can have a different God.
Yeah, like they did in the Greek mythologies, the classic example where they said, okay, let's just there's
so many examples,
too many things that are happening. There's war, and there's fire, and there's love, and there's all kinds of things. So there has to be a God responsible for each of these. The problem that is that you're going into now a completely scattered perception where everything is disconnected, where it's not one system where everything is interdependent and interconnected. You can have your own deal with this God. I'll have my deal with that God. That's basically what the Greek mythologies are all about, right? Like, what are the different kind of transactions between the gods and the humans? Think about how these things look. Here's the thing. We're talking about these things like ancient thinking patterns. It's not ancient. This is how you and I and everyone in the world, let's say those who are not studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, okay, are looking at reality right now, even though we don't realize it. Every day you wake up, you go to work, you have some troubles with your boss, with your wife, with your kids, with the bank, with all kinds of things. Your inner question is, what is actually happening to me? And then immediately, because we need a story, human beings need to figure out what is the story we're living in, we without even noticing it, we solve it in one of these ways. We either
he's the criminal in my life.
Exactly.
This one is the savior in my life. This one is the cause for all the problems.
And these archetypes of gods and so on, they're so deeply rooted in how we think. Again, we talked about how people go to movies to see heroes, and it's why does it work on us? Why does it work so well? Because we are constantly looking for how to solve these contradictions that we see in nature, in reality. And
so hold on a second.
Yeah.
So hard stop for a second. So we have this one perspective where we're just kind of left alone on this planet here. There's a bunch of laws of nature, gravity, whatever. And
there's no purpose to it. There's no purpose.
We just happen
plan.
to be here. We're on a certain rock.
It's all random.
Space.
This is important.
Feel free.
One second. This is an important point, because it becomes such a dogmatic way of thinking that today, if you're a scientist and you would dare to suggest that nature has some overall plan, in some schools of thought, you would be outcast. You would be banned. That type of thinking would be immediately labeled as religious or non-scientific. Why? Because we can't empirically measure it with our current senses and our current tools. And that's why, in this respect, science could be limiting. It doesn't go into
So
the
science
why
science
of
says we have a
things.
box, and inside this box there's a lot of elements, and there's a bunch of rules,
Yeah.
laws that dictate how those elements all relate to each other, and that's that. And
And
whether or
let's
not we
let's
discovered
research
it
how
all
it
yet, it doesn't matter. It's all in that box.
let's research how that box works, how where things go from here to there. Science does this best. It explains the how of reality, but why? What is the
Okay,
purpose
hold
of
on, no,
reality?
yeah. Let's just leave what's. Let's just
That's
leave.
yeah.
Let's just.
Mhm.
Okay, that's one. Okay, let's just be clear about this. So Baba
Right, but
Sulam describes that one.
number one says no purpose. That's an important point.
Yeah, a
It
box
says
full of stuff, and it's just
there's no
everything's
purpose to
interacting
it.
in there.
And there's no
Okay.
purpose to it. That's important to okay, yeah.
Then he describes another group, which is the group that we talked about with India, for example, or in Greek mythology. Okay, I need rain, such and such a god. I need to make a deal with him about that. We need sun, another god. We need to deal with that. I need money.
Well,
I got another
before
one. I
that, you
need
have
health.
just the two, the good and evil, good and bad, God and
So
Satan.
God does
kind of
everything
thing.
good and the devil does everything bad.
Yeah. Something very obvious in Christianity, for example. But okay, let's.
Okay, the
Mhm.
third one is multiple gods, one for each power.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
kind of like what we see in India now about the
Absolutely.
praying to this corona goddess.
right.
Okay.
But again, I
So-
don't want to. It's Seth. It's important to say that I don't want to say, oh, it's those people thinking like that. We always think like that as well, even if
All
you
of us
don't go
think like that all the time.
all the time. We go from thinking, oh, something bad happened to me in life. Well, it just happened. Things happen, right? Oh, I got a bad feeling in my stomach. I got some medical problem. It happened. That's one way of looking at it. Or you can say, well, now the bad force of my life has taken over. The good, this, even if you don't call it God and Satan or God, or you can say, it's because that doctor, he treated me badly, or you know what I mean? So we always we subscribe to one of these methods in order to explain to ourselves where we are and what's happening to us.
Okay, so
Go
Bala
ahead.
Sulam lays these out, and as you just said, not only is it Greek mythology or happening in some village in India, but actually, if we look at ourselves, we're always doing this, all of these different things.
Yeah,
Now comes the wisdom of Kabbalah.
right.
Now, before you get to the wisdom of Kabbalah, I just want to say that Wendy Walberink is here, and she's asking some really good questions. Wendy, we see them, and we see everyone's questions. David, we see your questions, and Francine, and slightly slanted sleuth. Wendy asks, why not save the deer? If it only needs help for a few months, we do the same for children. Well, no, that's what we said at the beginning, but why stop at that deer? Only because my eyes saw that deer? Should I, if I know that there's another couple hundred deer in the woods, in the forest, should I not stop at the deer that was just left outside of my office? Am I only responsible for what my eyes see? If I'm a hiker and I happen to see two more, should I also save them? And what about birds? Should I be walking around, or should I only be responsible just for what happens right in front of my eyes? Or am I required to also have my ear out, anything that my kids have heard about in the neighborhood or anywhere else? So we have to understand, who am I responsible? Whose life am I responsible for? Everyone? No one? Just what my eyes see? It's a question.
What about the baby humans that are dying just
What
farther
about
from
the bit?
from our sight?
Why do I take time to go every once in a while, like go to a cryotherapy? You know about it? It's like freezing cold. It's like minus 200 degrees. It's supposed to be
You do
really
that?
good for the. Yeah, I
Yeah.
take both my boys play soccer
I
and they get
did
really sore.
in Russia when we went to, there was a Kabbalah convention there, right? In Moscow. Was
Yeah.
amazing. It was an amazing experience with all of our Russian friends. Anyway, they took me to something It's the Russian version of it.
You jump in a freezing cold spring.
You go into free. It's no. You go into the sauna first, so hot, and then cold,
The Russian
and then
friends took
hot
me in
again,
Chicago. Grisha took me to the
and
bunny,
then
and they
hot
beat
again.
you with these willow branches too to
Yeah,
bring the blood
that's
up
classic. But the hot, cold thing, it's specifically, it's smart. It's in order to, they say it opens up like your very, very tiny, thin blood vessels that otherwise there's no other way to kind of refresh them, exercise them, get them to
your
recirculate better.
capillaries, as
Yeah,
Chris said.
yeah, exactly. Anyway,
So
it's
here's
cool.
my question. Why should I care about my capillaries and about the great relaxation I feel eating pierogies and herring and drinking vodka afterwards when there are a million starving children and
Yeah.
starving and dying deer and dying baby birds? Why do I stop and put on comedy at least once a day to laugh about something? Why do I take time for these things? Why do I go on a vacation when there's starving children? Where should we be dedicating our morning, noon, and night and every ounce of energy to eradicating the suffering? And will it help? And before we answer that question, let's get back to the article for a second. Follow Salam's article. So he laid out a few things here. He laid out the one approach, which is there's no purpose here. All this stuff is in a box with all these laws operating on it, and everything is just happening here. Then we got this other approach where there's a good God who does everything good, and there's a bad God responsible for everything bad. And then we got the multiple gods approach, which we all know, right? That God, that damn police officer who pulled me over, the damn IRS who did this. I can't believe he lied to me about this. Constantly, as if each one of these forces operating on me somehow has some dominion over me that can rule my life, right? If only, I picked one lottery, if only the lottery god just made a different ball come up, my whole destiny would have been different. If only, the soccer coach would have picked me in 5th grade, then the girl would have liked me, which would have given me confidence to get the good grade, which would have this. And, so all of these different influences on us. And then Baal Salam lays it all out, all of these things that operate on us. And then he comes and tells us about the wisdom of Kabbalah, which is why everybody came here today, Asaf, to understand what is this wisdom telling us.
So it's very
and
simple.
How is it going to help us?
So I'm going to say it's very simple. I'm also looking at the time we have left, which is not a lot, and that's why I'm making it short.
Once again, you have 5 minutes to explain the purpose of creation.
You
should be getting good at it by now.
So Kabbalah's approach to solving this contradiction is actually very simple. Kabbalah, first of all, it's very close to the scientific view, but with a twist. Baal Sulam says, I think later on in that article, much later in that article, it's a long article where he also explains the difference between any society that's trying to be socialist or communist and what Kabbalah explains about human connection and how that can build a society in balance with nature. Anyway, so he explains there the only difference between me and he says as a Kabbalist and those who look at nature as a system of laws. Nature is a system of laws. You can call God the creator, you can call it nature. It's the same thing from a Kabbalistic perspective, but the difference is while the scientists, let's say, look at this system of laws as just operating by necessity, one thing necessitates the other, the Kabbalist sees the guiding purpose behind the laws. That's the whole difference. But that little unseen difference is huge. It's a little shift, but it changes everything. Because now it means that everything that's happening to us, yes, we are supposed to respond. If someone is going to fight you, then you need to protect yourself. If there's a phenomenon in nature itself that is hurting you, you need to find a way to protect yourself. But you also need to figure out why this thing has happened to you and where is it taking you. There is a purpose for each and every little thing that happens from the very beginning of the explosion that scientists refer to as the Big Bang to the Baruch Salam gives a crazy example. Like it's humoristic even. He says even the remember that we talked about this a lot, that example. He says even when the donkey pisses on an ant, right? That too is a purposeful part of nature's plan. Everything that we see, all of the horrific stuff that are that are very hard to justify, or the good, the bad, the ugly, it all comes from nature. All of those laws, they're interconnected. Gravity and just like gravity and electromagnetism and all those laws are connected according to physics. Everything that's happening to us in human society, including our personal individual thoughts and desires, all of it is in the same system. Nothing gets out of this system. And that system has a goal. Now, it has a why. It has a purpose. What is the purpose? To bring creation, all of those levels of nature, still vegetative, animate, and human, all the levels of creation, to bring them into equivalence, balance, adhesion, it's called in the wisdom of Kabbalah, a state of conscious connection with that guiding intention that created all those levels. That's what the scientists are not researching and even prevent themselves from looking at. And Kabbalah looks at that in an empirical way, not in some by, you're not supposed to believe that, you're supposed to discover that. How? By working on a similar intention, finding out what is nature's intention, working on building a similar intention, and through that equivalence, this resonance, just like a radio wave that a radio receiver starts catching when it's aimed at the right frequency, you start feeling, sensing nature's purpose in everything that's happening.
And here we have something truly wondrous, that instead of being a goat who just got a really good goat partner and a good goat house and some nice green grass, no, but by doing this, by coming into harmony with nature, we become so much more. Our perception, our feelings become so much more than this donkey life. All of a sudden we start to feel this eternal sensation that's beyond just the simple problem that we seem to be facing, or even like, if you could have, if the cells of our body had cute little deer eyes and cute polka dots on it, then every time a cell in our body died, we would be like, oh, right? So it's like we would start to see that each and everything, and of course we can't do it yet, but each and everything that we're perceiving in our reality is just like that. It's a cell in the body. And when we have the new focus based on this new connection between all the disparate parts, we begin to rise. Literally, it's a perception that's above the perception on this level, and all of those problems that nature herself is presenting all become just a force. Instead of erasing them or saying they don't exist, all of that becomes a lifting wave.
Right. The problems are not for us to eradicate them and fix them. The problems are there to fix us. So to answer the question that we had, that we gave a title to this episode. Is nature trying to wipe humanity off the planet? So, on the one hand, yes, it's trying it's going to wipe us in our current form. It's going to make us something new. We, just like the caterpillar that turns into a butterfly, we humans are going to evolve to a new state of living that is going to be in connection with the guiding force of nature that is non-material. We're going to rise above time, space, motion to identify, sympathize with the guiding force of nature, with that governing force behind the whole system of laws. And then this whole reality where we see so much suffering, so much problems, so much to fix, will understand it had a purpose of taking us beyond it. That really is the only way to justify all of the suffering in this reality. And the only way to justify the pain and suffering in this world is to rise above this world. Anyway,
in order to do that,
yeah,
nature is pushing us to connect with each other, pushing us to become more connected with all of our different forms, with all of our different opinions, to become closer and closer together. So as we conclude the show, just want to say thank you to all of the amazing friends from all over the world who came and joined us today.
Yes.
Slightly Slanted Sleuth and Patricia and Kevin and Shannon and Yetzi and Francine,
Corey and Walter,
David Mancini,
the Mancini, of course.
Albert is here. Oh my God. Hey,
Patricia,
Albert. Kevin and
was
Corey.
here. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
a lot of
Albert
friends
is
here.
That's cool. Yeah. And Debbie and
Julian.
Deborah and Karen and Anton and 88NKW44. Hello there, you two.
And Stratacat,
Julian,
and John
Julie,
Wolf, and Wendy, and everyone. If we missed anyone,
Ruby,
Anton,
Anna,
TJ333.
Yeah.
Okay,
Simone,
friends, Coleman, Robertson, and Douglas.
Leah,
Wow, so many friends here. Mocha
and
Movies.
Sabir and Rebecca,
Anyway.
and TC Kennedy and Robert Friend. Hey, Robert. Yeah, great to be with you guys. Really great to
Everything
be with
is
you guys.
in our hands, friends. Everything is in our hands. We'll see you next Thursday at 2 p.m. Let's be connected more and more above all of the problems, above all the things that nature is presenting to us. It is her, it is him, it is whatever you want to call it. Let's find in that space our new connection above that, and we'll start to perceive, we will in our lives start to perceive a new reality. We'll use all of the forces that nature's presenting in order to raise us up, as long as we just keep adding the big plus on top of her big minus. Asaf, thank you. Chris, thanks. And we'll see you Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Give us a song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See a picture of
All
me.
right.
Through you I find my flaws. Through there's a key, a place where we can open doors. Together we give the fire it burns, a chance to feel alive. A song from the heart, singing that love will cover our crime. To see the face of love through your eyes. Together as one.